I just went in and did the product shot, so you can see I've got hydrating primer on this side, and then I've got all the blurring, smoothing primers on this side. Look at that difference. That's crazy. Hey guys, what's going on? If you're new here, welcome. My name is BrittanyNichole, and today I'm super excited to tell you we are starting a new series. This might actually be my first series ever on my channel, and I'm gonna call it Technique Tuesday. I recently asked you guys what you wanna see on YouTube and what you look for in a YouTube video, and so many of you said you wanted to see more educational videos, and that is the whole reason I started my channel. I want to share every bit of knowledge I have from my professional makeup days with you guys so you can feel a little more comfortable with makeup. YouTube has become much more of an entertaining platform than an educational platform. I mean, there's absolutely videos out there that are educational, and I like to watch those videos too. So I know lately there have been a lot of like get ready with me's and stuff like that. Sometimes I just think you guys get bored with that, but thank you so much for all that feedback. It was super helpful. I'm definitely going to be doing some more drugstore videos, some more shop my stash videos, and then like today, Technique Tuesday videos. So I thought we'd really start at the beginning with this one. So today I'm going to be focusing on face primers, what kinds of face primers there are, when I think you should use a specific type of face primer, do face primers even work, and all that kind of jazz. So if that sounds like something you're interested in seeing today, go ahead and keep watching. So I do have a little bit of a different setup today as well. I know the lighting's not perfect. I'm using natural light, and then I'm also using some soft boxes. I just wanted to sit in my living room and do this and get cozy and comfy. So let's get started with the different types of face primers. There's hydrating face primers, there's illuminating face primers, there's pore reducing face primers, there's primerizers, there's gripping primers, there's smoothing primers, there's color correcting primers, there's serum primers. There is pretty much a primer for any skin concern out there right now. I personally enjoy hydrating primers and illuminating primers. I'm not a big fan of the pore reducing on my skin because one, I don't have big pores, and two, I'm not excessively oily. I'm not dry either. I just really like to have more of a glowy, dewy finish to my foundation. So that's when I'll grab for my primer. Now with that said, I think it might be smart to start with, is primer necessary? Honestly, I think that's completely up to you. If you feel like your makeup is missing a step, if you feel like you want a different finish to your foundation, let's say you got a mattifying primer. I recently talked about this with the CoverGirl foundation I tried. That was a little more matte. So I went in with more of a hydrating, illuminating primer, and I felt like I liked the finish more. So in circumstances like that, if you really like a matte foundation, but you don't like the finish on your skin, if you try an illuminating or a hydrating primer, you might be able to make that work for you. Now, if you feel like you just go in with your moisturizer in the morning and go right in with your makeup, then you probably don't need a primer. If you feel like you have big pores that need filling, you might want to go in with a pore reducing primer. So you really kind of have to look at your skin and assess your own situation and see how that specific primer can help you. I feel like primer in the last few years, especially since YouTube beauty has gotten bigger, primer has become a really hyped up product, like something you need in your routine. And I definitely don't think you need it. If I go in and do my skincare in the morning and then I'm ready to do my makeup, 9 times out of 10, I'm not even gonna go in with a primer because my skin already has the hydration it needs. So, test the waters. If you're not using a primer and you see one that you think might benefit your makeup routine, maybe pick it up. If you already feel like you're perfectly fine without primer, you don't need it, in my opinion. Another thing to keep in mind is certain primers don't work with certain foundations. I can't tell you how many times I've gone in with a primer I love, and then I'll try it with a foundation, and the foundation looks like crap, but then I'll go in with that same foundation on a different day, and it will look beautiful. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're trying new foundations. maybe it's not working with your primer that you absolutely love. Maybe that certain foundation formula just doesn't work. So give new foundations a try with primer, without primer, with one primer, with another primer. You know what I mean? That's always something I think about when I do my videos, when I like test a foundation. I want to try it with my primer. I want to try it without my primer because that can definitely have an effect on how the foundation looks. As far as how much primer you need, that's also going to depend on your skin type. If you have really dry, dehydrated skin and you go in with a hydrating primer, your skin might soak all of that up. So you might be able to go in with a little bit more. If you have large pores in a certain area, like around here, you might want to only go in with a little bit of a pore reducing primer and then go in on other areas of your skin. If you kind of have, you know, an oily T-zone and then dry around the edges, whatever you've got going on, you might want to go in with a little more of a hydrating primer around the edges. So you can absolutely mix your primers. I love to do that. I love to do that on clients. If I had a client with an oily T-zone, might go in with a mattifying primer, and then they might be dry on the edges. Again, go in with a hydrating primer on there. As a general rule of thumb, I'd say a dime size amount is probably, you know, a good amount if you're going in with one primer all over, but test it out, going with a little bit more. Again, it all depends on skin type. You just want to make sure you're not going in with like a bunch. Like I wouldn't go in with a quarter size or anything like that. That'd probably be a little bit excessive, but you know, who knows? If your skin is super dehydrated, maybe your face could take it. So I want to talk through the different types of primers in depth, give you some high-end options, give you some affordable options. So again, I have really normal skin. It's not oily, it's not dry. I don't have big pores anywhere. If I go in with a little too much retinol, I might get a little bit dry, but I personally prefer a hydrating primer when I'm going in with a primer. I just like a more dewy finish to my foundation, and my absolute favorite primer is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hydrating Hyaluronic Acid Primer. I use this 9 times out of 10. Beautiful finish. It's definitely going to give you a little bit of a glow. I hear that this is a really good dupe for the Fenty Hydrating Primer if you've tried that, but this is like $9 or $10. You can get it at ColourPop or Ulta, and it's just like I said, it makes your skin look super hydrated. It sinks into the skin really quick. It's on the light moisturizer side. I think in my head of the CeraVe like daily moisturizer. If you've ever tried that, that's kind of what the texture reminds me of. I like to let my primers, any type of primer I'm using, sink in for a few minutes before I go into the next step. You don't want to apply your primer and then move right into your foundation because it's just going to kind of mix in with your foundation and that might do some funky things. So please make sure you're letting your primers dry down and really do their job before you're going in with the next step. But I'm a huge fan of hydrating primers. If you have dry skin, I would absolutely go in with a hydrating primer. Or again, if you're like me, if you like more of a dewy finish to your foundation, a primer can really help with that. Next is illuminating primers, and this is probably my second favorite type of primer. You guys know I talk about the Milani Soft Focus Glow all the time. This makes your skin just look like you have a radiance to it, like you're glowing from within. I love it. If I'm ever going in with a foundation that's on the matte type of finish side, I usually go in with a Milani Soft Focus Glow because it just makes everything look so much better. Really like this, and it's nice and affordable. Another option, which is a little bit more on the illuminating side, not quite like Tin Man style, but maybe a couple notches down, is the NYX High Glass Face Primer. I would say start out with the Milani if you were looking into getting into more of an illuminating primer, but the difference for me is a hydrating primer is gonna hydrate the skin, and an illuminating primer has these little kind of like shimmery, and don't be scared by that, but they have a little bit more of a shimmery type of finish to them that's gonna make you look like you're glowing from within. Charlotte Tilbury makes one that's super popular as well. I've never pulled the trigger on that one because it's so expensive and I love the Milani, but that's definitely on my wish list. So if you are more in the market for like a high-end version, check that out. If you want drugstore versions, both of these are awesome. Next, I want to talk about mattifying or oil controlling primers. This is when I'm kicking myself for getting rid of all my makeup because I definitely had some of these in my collection. They were just expired and I never go in with a mattifying or oil controlling primer on myself. It just looks much too dry. So if you do have a mattifying primer, like I was all over that e.l.f. matte putty primer when it came out, knowing full well I don't like mattifying primers, but I still wanted to try it because I totally buy into the hype and I'm super influenced, but that just looked awful on me. So if you are struggling with your makeup like pilling up, or if you go in with a mattifying primer and it kind of just makes everything look drier, don't go in with that. Go in with a hydrating primer, which obviously makes sense, but I don't know. Sometimes we're just influenced, like I said, by YouTube and hear people talking about how good it is, and if it doesn't work for you, it might be because you have dry skin. But anyway, mattifying and oil controlling primers, like again, the Fenty or the e.l.f., that is gonna help kind of control any of your skin's natural oils from coming through the skin and breaking apart your foundation. Again, not my favorite thing. Go in sparingly with these, a lot of these, and then we're gonna talk about pore reducing as well, which I feel like these are kind of in the same bucket, but claim to do different things. But anyway, they have kind of the silicone-ish finish. Not my favorite thing in the world. I also wonder if you're going in with a primer that's blocking your oils from coming out, is that gonna cause breakouts? But either way, if you do struggle with your oils really coming through and it's making a big impact on your foundation, a mattifying or oil controlling primer might be great for you. I used to be a huge fan of the Smashbox. Like this was a long time ago when I did professional makeup, when Smashbox primers, Smashbox, you are the OG. They had tons of oil controlling and mattifying, and I think they still do primers that, you know, work really well. Okay, so next we're talking pore reducing primers. So again, I feel like these are kind of in my head when I think about a mattifying or oil controlling primer. I also think about pore reducing, but we're talking about, again, another OG, the Benefit Porefessional. That is like exactly what my brain goes to when I think about a pore reducing primer, and that is like silicone-y AF. Same thing with the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer and the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. e.l.f. has pretty much made every category now with that putty primer of any kind of primer you can want. I'm just not a fan of it. But anyway, pore reducing primers are going to help fill in your pores. So if you go in with your foundation and you feel like it sinks into your pores and you can really see your pores, I guess it would make more sense to say it enhances your pores, you might want to go in with a pore reducing primer. The Dr. Brandt Pores No More. I've never had large pores, but I saw Carly Bible talk about that and how like smooth it made her skin look, and I tried to make that work for months and months and months and months, and it never did because I don't have large pores, so I had nothing to fill. It just looked awful. I don't know what I was thinking. I've gone through phases on YouTube where I'm just like, girl, what were you doing? But that's another really good, like that will fill in your pores if you have larger pores. Next up, and this got a ton of hype, was it this year or last year? I can't remember. Gripping primers. So we are talking the Milk Hydro Grip. I think that's what it's called. Who else makes one? Dermablend, that's the one I got. It's like the Instagrip Jelly Primer. These are supposed to make your makeup last longer. I think they just feel like glue on your face. It's literally like taking glue that is still tacky and rubbing it onto your skin. I did not like it at all. I didn't feel like I could spread it around my face. I'm not a fan of those. Many people love the Milk one, so I don't know. I've never tried that, but the idea behind that is it's supposed to make your makeup last longer, so take that as you will. I don't know if I truly believe any primer will make your makeup last longer, honestly, unless you have, again, like oily skin that breaks apart your foundation easily. I personally think primer is something that's going to kind of enhance the look of your foundation. I don't use primer for the longevity of it, and I'll leave it at that. Next, we've got smoothing primers. So we're talking the Tatcha Silk Canvas. We're talking the Hourglass Mineral Veil. I think that's what it's called. I've not tried either of those, but obviously the idea is it's supposed to make your milk, not your milk, your makeup look smooth. Both of those are holy grail primers. Maybe one day I'll try them. I'm not sure. They're both very expensive, which is why I haven't purchased them. But yeah, if you feel like you've got a lot of texture when you put on your foundation and you think you need something under that to kind of help smooth the skin out, give those a try. I have the Becca Skin Love Brighten and Blur Primer. I don't know why this is called Brighten because I don't feel like it brightens, but it definitely does make the skin look a little more smooth. So this is kind of like a combo in my mind of the pore reducing, oil controlling, mattifying, smoothing primer. And then the same thing with the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish. I love this one as well. I feel like it does, you know, all three: pore reducing, mattifying, and also kind of smooths the skin. So if you are in the market and wanted to try some that you know I trust, both of these, but Pat McGrath is crazy expensive, so keep that in mind. Next, we've got color correcting primers. So I'm sure your mind is gonna go to what my mind goes to. I'm thinking like the green red reducing primer. Smashbox makes one, e.l.f. makes one. I'm sure NYX makes one. I think they've got an orange-ish tinted one and a purple tinted one as well. So if you struggle with, you know, redness to your skin, a green primer might help with that. If you struggle with blue tones or purple tones, an orange-ish primer might help with that. I never really felt like when I did makeup professionally on clients that it made enough of a difference to make me grab for that more than a different type of primer. And the same thing with my skin. I have no makeup on, obviously. You can see I've got a little bit of redness to my skin, and they're just not my favorite. But if you really struggled with needing to color correct before going in with a foundation, that might work for you. Then we have serum primers, which aren't my favorite. So I'm thinking like the Farsali. Remember that moment when every YouTuber and Instagrammer was like, drip, you know what I mean? Not my favorite at all. So I think e.l.f. has one as well. Wet n Wild has one. I've tried that, and I just don't think they ever dry down enough. So they kind of mix in with your foundation and does a weird thing. But if you had really dehydrated skin, maybe that would work really well for you, and it would really plump your skin and give it the hydration it needed for foundation, but definitely not my favorite kind of primer. And I don't have one to show you in my collection at all because, again, not my favorite. So those I think are like the most popular primers. There's also things like vitamin enriched primers like the Bobbi Brown. I just use this as a moisturizer before makeup. It's the vitamin enriched face base. Again, I had mentioned the Smashbox Primerizer, same type of deal. So like a 2-in-1. I'm all about easiness because I'm lazy usually when it comes to my makeup. So this works really well for me. There's also long wearing primers, there's anti-aging primers, there's primer sprays, which I'm not a fan of. I like setting sprays because I think it takes down like a powdery finish, but when it comes to using a spray as a primer and only a spray, I just personally don't think it does anything. I just went in and did the product shots. So you can see I've got hydrating primer on this side, and then I've got all the blurring, smoothing primers on this side. Look at that difference. That's crazy. I actually don't mind how this looks. I just know when I go in with my foundation, it doesn't look as good, but what a difference. Hydrating, mattifying, pore reducing, blurring, smoothing. Crazy. All right, so that is it for face primers. I know that was a lot of information, but I hope it was helpful and educational. Let me know what you guys think about Technique Tuesday. Is this something you guys will look forward to? Is this something you're into? I was thinking I would literally start from where we start with makeup, so primers. So next I might do eye primers and then, you know, foundation, and go on from there and there and there. And then we can kind of, you know, make this a series so we have things to look forward to and you know what's coming next. But let me know if there's something you are dying to see down below. Otherwise, if you're interested in seeing any more videos from me, please subscribe. It means the absolute world to me. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. It helps my channel a lot. I will take the hair out of my mouth, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.